The movie opens with the dramatic arrival of a drug cartel leader's plane at a private airport, surrounded by a formidable team of heavily armed guards. After reaching his luxurious residence, the cartel head changes into swimwear and enjoys a leisurely dip in his private pool. However, his relaxation is abruptly interrupted when he realizes he has lost his watch and descends underwater to retrieve it. It's at this moment that an unidentified stranger seizes the cartel leader, keeping him submerged until his demise. The assassin responsible for this bold act is none other than Arthur Bishop, a highly skilled hitman renowned for his strict code and exceptional proficiency in eliminating targets. His years of experience have honed his meticulous nature, allowing him to execute missions with precision. Seizing the ensuing chaos, Bishop carefully exits the mansion and makes his way to a nearby river, where he plunges in to make his escape. Back at his home, Bishop engages in a conversation with Harry McKenna, his only friend and mentor, reflecting on their unique and dangerous profession. Picture Harry, a prominent businessman who has been a loyal client of Bishop's for several years, a relationship that has blossomed into a genuine friendship. During one of their heartfelt conversations, Harry opens up to Bishop, expressing his deep dissatisfaction with his son, Steve. After they conclude a job in Colombia, they part ways with Harry generously compensating Bishop for his exceptional services. However, the story takes a dark twist when Bishop returns to his abode and scrutinizes his newly received contract. To his shock, he uncovers that the contract entails the assassination of his close friend, Harry. Filled with doubts about the legitimacy of this unexpected assignment, Bishop contacts his boss, seeking confirmation and requesting a face-to-face meeting. His request is promptly granted, and a private jet is dispatched to meet him. Upon arrival, Bishop rendezvous with Dean, Harry's business partner, and during their intense conversation, Dean discloses a harrowing tale of a previous mission in South Africa that occurred 6 months earlier. This mission, their largest contract to date, ended in a tragic disaster, with 6 of their agency's assassins losing their lives. In a clandestine world where only Dean and Harry possessed knowledge of the mission's intricate details, Harry, in exchange for a substantial sum, becomes the recipient of a lucrative deal. Bishop, troubled by this sinister turn of events, pleads with Dean for a peaceful resolution that can spare lives. He fervently desires to avoid bloodshed. Dean, however, remains unyielding, insisting on his swift demise. He issues Bishop a tight ultimatum, allowing him a mere 48 hours to execute the task, or else he will seek an alternative assassin. Despite his belief in Harry's guilt, Bishop values the importance of a face-to-face conversation with his longtime friend. In solitude, Bishop ingeniously deceives Harry, luring him out of the building and down to the lower level of the parking lot. There, their paths converge, and Bishop, rather than acting out of anger, stands ready to carry out his duty. To his surprise, Harry responds with a knowing smile, revealing an unexpected twist. Bishop conveys his reluctance to end Harry's life and proposes they make a daring escape together. However, Harry counters, highlighting the complexities of the situation. He warns that Dean, if thwarted, would promptly hire another assassin. In an unexpected turn of events, a group of assassins is hot on their trail. Harry, facing this dire situation, unveils an antique firearm he had never used before and entrusts it to Bishop. He implores Bishop to be the one to carry out the act. Without a moment's hesitation, Bishop takes the firearm and discharges multiple shots at Harry's funeral, carrying out his friend's final wish. Afterward, Bishop encounters Harry's son, Steve, and offers to take him to his father's home. In a moment of vulnerability, Steve confides in Bishop about his plan to seek revenge on a carjacker. Bishop, though, questions whether this path will truly bring Steve the satisfaction he seeks. Steve acknowledges his uncertainty but remains determined to find out. Steve ventures onto the streets, waiting in his vehicle for a carjacker to strike. When an opportunist approaches, Steve launches a brutal assault. Unbeknownst to him, Bishop has discreetly shadowed his actions and intervenes, preventing the situation from escalating into murder. The following day, Steve tracks down Bishop and implores him to train him as an assassin. However, Bishop is deeply conflicted. Bishop denies Steve's request to become his mentor and urges him to return home. Struggling with guilt over taking Steve's father's life, Bishop decides to share a current contract with him. The target is a man who frequents the coffee shop Steve visits, a fellow assassin named Burke from a rival agency. Bishop reveals Burke's weaknesses, including his fondness for young men and small dogs, such as the one they adopted together. When Burke approaches Steve and invites him for drinks, Bishop advises him to incapacitate Burke with retinol. However, Steve chooses a riskier approach. He convinces Burke to come to his place that night. As Burke undresses, Steve attempts to strangle him with a belt. Despite his determination, Burke's overpowering size proves insurmountable for Steve, leading to a tense confrontation between the two. A brutal and protracted struggle ensues, with Steve eventually managing to bring an end to Burke's life, albeit at the cost of sustaining severe injuries in the process. Despite the successful completion of the job, Bishop finds himself disheartened that it didn't unfold as smoothly as he had envisioned. Subsequently, Dean contacts Bishop and expresses his dissatisfaction with involving Steve in the Burke contract. Bishop clarifies that it was Harry, not Dean, who had initiated the contract. At this juncture, Dean questions whether Steve is aware that Bishop is the one responsible for his father's demise, causing Bishop's frustration to boil over. In response, Dean issued a stern warning, making it clear that Bishop is under close surveillance. Sometime later, Bishop receives a new contract. His task is to eliminate Andrew, the leader of a cult-like church. To ensure a clean execution, Steve and Bishop devise a plan to administer adrenaline to Andrew, simulating a heart attack. This strategy ensures that when the paramedics arrive, they will find, unbeknownst to the doctor, they inadvertently administer a second fatal dose of adrenaline to Andrew. Bishop and Steve prepare for their mission as they gear up for the impending task. Shortly after, a doctor arrives, renowned for administering various drugs to Andrew. This time, Andrew requests something different. Realizing that the doctor's prescribed dose could counteract the effects of their planned adrenaline overdose, Bishop and Steve must act quickly and find an alternative method to eliminate him. As they provide the dose, the doctor receives an urgent phone call that forces him to leave, leaving Andrew alone in the room. This is their golden opportunity to make their move. Emerging from their concealed position, they swiftly suffocate him and then retreat into the shadows. Initially, Andrew's associates assume he has succumbed to an overdose due to his history with such substances. However, the security team conducts a thorough examination of the room to be certain. It doesn't take long for Bishop and Steve to be discovered, leading to a tense and potentially dangerous situation. In a dramatic shootout with the guards, they manage to skillfully evade their pursuers and make a daring escape from the building during the evacuation. Bishop is adamant that they should part ways, urging Steve to return home while he heads to the airport. While at the airport, Bishop's attention is captivated by the sight of one of the killers he believed to be deceased from the South African mission. Intrigued and determined to uncover the truth behind this apparent deception, Bishop decides to follow this man and discover the reasons behind his faked death. In the ensuing confrontation, Bishop unravels a shocking truth. His boss, Dean, had masterminded a deceitful plan that led to the death of Harry and engineered the failed South African operation to hide his illicit dealings. Consumed by the depth of this betrayal, the other killer attempts to eliminate Bishop, leading to a brutal struggle. Bishop eventually emerges victorious, though not without considerable effort. Empowered by this revelation, Bishop sets out on a path to set things right and seek revenge against Dean. However, on his way home, he faces yet another ambush by assassins. Bishop manages to eliminate and take down all the assassins and, using one of their phones, traces the mastermind behind the operation. He dials a number from the phone and uncovers that Dean has meticulously orchestrated the entire operation, employing numerous assassins to target him. In a race against time, Bishop returns home and contacts Steve, only to discover that Steve, too, has fallen into an ambush. In a critical moment, Steve implores Bishop to come to his aid, but Bishop senses that Steve is surrounded by killers. He discreetly guides Steve to a concealed gun hidden beneath the couch he's seated on. Steve acts swiftly, retrieves the weapon, and eliminates the 3 assailants threatening him. Upon Bishop's arrival, he instructs Steve to gather the necessary materials for their upcoming mission. As Steve organizes their supplies, he stumbles upon his father's gun, and in a chilling realization, he comes to understand that the man who killed his father was none other than Bishop. he was not merely a car thief. In the meantime, after Dean has left, Bishop pays a visit to a man who has been fiercely loyal to Dean for many years. He demands information on Dean's whereabouts, but the man stubbornly remains silent. Even when Bishop takes his daughter hostage, the man refuses to speak. Bishop escalates the threat, insinuating harm to the terrified daughter. Finally, the man cracks and reveals Dean's location. Bishop and Steve rendezvous and head to the disclosed address. As Dean realizes that Bishop has breached the building, he hastily assembles his security detail and attempts to flee. Unbeknownst to Dean, Bishop and Steve are lying in wait outside. When Dean emerges in his car, they open fire, causing the vehicle to flip and leaving Dean critically injured. They seize the opportunity to eliminate him for good. Later, while in the car, Steve questions Bishop about their next move. Bishop asserts that, given their circumstances, they must assume new identities and find a new place to call home. In due course, they decide to make a stop at a gas station, marking a new chapter in their journey. As they arrive at the gas station, Bishop senses that Steve has uncovered Harry's gun and brought it along, intensifying the gravity of the situation. When they reach the station, Steve offers to fetch anything Bishop might need. Bishop reassures him that he's fine, and Steve proceeds to refuel. Outside, Steve strategically positions the nozzle, allowing fuel to spill onto the ground beneath the car. He then departs, brandishing Harry's gun, and ignites the gas, triggering a catastrophic explosion that engulfs the gas station and obliterates Bishop's vehicle. Steve returns to Bishop's residence, taking a moment to listen to a recording on the record player. He then makes his way to the garage, making off with Bishop's prized 1966 Jaguar E-Type coupe. As he drives away, he discovers a foreboding note on the car seat, which ominously predicts his demise. Steve chuckles at the message, but shortly thereafter, the car erupts in flames. At the same moment when the record player in the house concludes its tune, it triggers an electrical mechanism that sets Bishop's residence ablaze. Simultaneously, a security camera at the gas station captures Bishop escaping from the car just before Steve detonates it. In due course, Bishop successfully makes his getaway in a different vehicle he had strategically parked nearby. This marks the end of our story,